Welcome back, guys, on the Maps podcast with me, your host, Andrew Sperling. It's good to have you back. Wow, this is the sixth episode. We've had 5 episodes already. We're on the sixth. What a blast it's been, and we have been looking at and discussing temptation. And what I decided to do is something a little bit different, is actually give us a deep dive on what temptation is. Who was tempted first in the Garden of Eden? Who, at least do we know of, who was tempted first in all the creation, which we know is Lucifer? Why was the serpent, who was the first of all God's earthly creation, to be tempted? Why was the serpent tempted? How was the serpent tempted? And today we're going to look at how did the serpent tempt Eve. Now, keep in mind, I shared this in one of my previous episodes, that the serpent, as much as it was a literal snake, but also carries the symbolism of Lucifer. So when I say serpent, I don't simply mean a snake. I mean snake and Lucifer. One coin, two sides. All right. So today we're going to look at how the serpent tempted Eve and how Eve was tempted. Because Eve knew, I'm not supposed to eat of this fruit. So why did she eat? And we're going to look at that today in this episode. But please, for those of you who are here with us for the first time, welcome to Maps Podcast. And please make sure you go back and watch the first, second, third, all the way to the fifth episode, or else I don't want to lose you on this one. All right, so let's dive right into it and look at how and why Eve was tempted. And I'm going to be looking at my phone. I'm going to be taking a couple notes from my phone, but stick with me, follow me, and I really hope you're having fun. So, back to Genesis 3:1. Actually, Genesis 3:1 all the way to 5. So, the serpent asks Eve a question. He says, or it says, did God really say, do not eat of all the fruit in the garden, of all the trees in the garden? That's already a trick question, because clearly we do know God told Eve and Adam, or Adam and Adam told Eve, because when God was giving Adam the commandment, God hadn't made Eve. So how Eve got to know, clearly it was secondhand information from Adam. And it's already a trick question, because we know they were allowed to eat of every tree in the garden except one. The serpent comes and says, did God say you shouldn't eat of any? Right? And Eve knows her stuff. She says, well, God didn't say that. God said we can eat of all the trees of the garden, all the fruits and all the trees of the garden, except one. The tree in the midst, in the middle of the garden, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, that we should not eat. Now, here's where Eve messed up. When you read the scripture, it says, Eve tells the serpent, in fact, we shouldn't even touch it. We shouldn't eat of it, and we shouldn't even touch it, or else we shall die. When you go back a previous chapter, I believe in Genesis 2, God tells Adam, don't eat of the tree in the middle of the garden, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, or else you shall die. God doesn't say anything about touching. So where does Eve get the touching? Clearly from Adam. And sometimes we read the Bible and forget that these are or were actual human beings. So the very tendencies we have, they had. Okay? So if naturally as human beings we exaggerate facts for further emphasis,